Hi, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today I am going to bring one of my most overdue videos to you, and it is what I use, all the materials I use to teach my classes online. I'm going to go through the paint colors, the brushes, the tools, everything that I use to teach my classes online. I'm going to tell you what brands I have, I'm going to tell you what tools I have, and I'm going to explain to you why I chose what I chose. So the paint colors that I use in my palette that I use for my students is the following. The first is a Quinacridone Magenta. Now, in the line I paint with, which is Acrylic by Sennelier, it's actually called Quinacridone Fuchsia. I like quinacridone because it is a bright pink. It gives me a bright pink, and it mixes really lovely purples. That's why it's in my palette. Then the next red I have is Cad Red Medium. Now, I like this red because it gives me vibrant, hot, warm reds, and I really like cadmium because it's such an intense color, but it can be a little bit pricey, and there are some safety issues, like you can't eat it, you can't inhale it, because it's got cadmium in it, so you definitely want to only use it for painting and nothing else. But one way that you can save a ton of money is getting what's called hue, so you get cadmium hue, and that'll about half the cost of the price of the paint. It'll give you the color, but you won't have any cadmium pigment in it. So that's a good tip for that. I use that color all the time. Then I have Cad Yellow Medium, and I really like this because with my Cad Red, it gives me super saturated bright oranges, and with my Cad Red, it gives me a whole crazy range of peaches that I really, really like, and corals. So same thing with the hue. You go to hue, it cuts the price of the color in half, and I really like this color. I use it all the time. Now, I also have Lemon Yellow Hansa in my palette, but I infrequently use this. This is rare when I get this out, but I do get it out occasionally when I need a green that is almost too luminous to believe, where I'm trying to make like neon greens and things. I find that the Lemon Yellow Hansa is really fantastic, so sometimes I pull it out for really bright colors or really extreme situations, but not that commonly. Now, Phthalo Blue I use constantly. This is Phthalo Blue Green shade. If you're painting in professional paint, that's important because it comes in a green shade and a red shade, and I want the green shade. But in student paints, it's only ever going to come in the green shade, the correct shade, because it's the easiest one to color mix with. And I like this Phthalo Blue because it gives me like vibrant, oversaturated greens when I mix it with my yellows, and I really love that. Then the next color I have is Ultramarine Blue. Man, this is like a heritage color. This is a color that I think is in every artist palette practically. It's because it's a great color. It is a red bias blue. Sometimes they will come in shades, red shade or green shade as well, or blue shade, and I just want the red shade. So you want the Ultramarine Blue. If it's a student paint, again, it's going to be in the correct shade, but if you're looking pro, you might see red shade or blue shade in there or green shade, and so you want to have the red shade. Phthalo Green, another phthaloithacane color. That's how you say the whole word, is phthaloithacane, but nobody wants to say that every time, so we say phthalo. So this is Phthalo Green, and this is blue shade. It also comes in a yellow shade, lovely color, but I don't use that. I use the green shade. Again, in student or economy paints, it tends to be in the blue shade because it's just such an easy color mixing color. That's why you see that in those types of sets. Then I have the convenience color, but it's not convenient to say, of Dioxazine Purple. This is a super saturated purple. It's so purple, you can't believe how purple it is. I can use it as black sometimes. I like to mix it with my burnt sienna. I like to mix it with my Cad Red when I'm doing fiery sunsets. I use it as a lot of transitional colors, and that's why, even though I get a good purple for my Quinacridone Magenta and my Ultramarine Blue, I like the Diox Purple for its super saturated nature. And when you say the whole thing, it's Dioxazine or Diox Purple is how you'll hear that said. Okay, the next one is Yellow Ochre. This is like one of the oldest paint colors. Like, it's so old. It's one of the first colors we used to paint anything anywhere, to make marks on a wall anywhere. So this is yellow ochre. I really like this. It's good for sand. It's good for natural scenes. It's good for skin tones if they're fair skin tones to warm middle skin tones. I really like yellow ochre, and I think it's a necessary one to have in your palette. Sometimes you find it as yellow oxide. The pigment's different, but the paint color is the same on those. In other words, the hue is the same. Then I use burnt sienna. The burnt sienna, not the raw sienna. And that, I'm not actually pulling a joke there. There's one that's called raw sienna. That's almost a yellow color. It's almost a yellow ochre color. I want the burnt sienna, which is a reddish brown color. You should know from paint line to paint line, there can be some big variance in the type of red brown that burnt sienna is. So this is the one I paint with like pretty much every week. I don't really change brands out of that one. And then finally, the Mars Black, actually not finally, because I got to do my other big one, Mars Black. So there's 4 different kinds of blacks that you basically run into in acrylic. I like the Mars Black because it's very stable and it's very matte and it mixes well with everything, and it's just a gorgeous color. So that's why I'm not doing like lamp black or bone black. I'm picking the Mars Black. And then this is my big tube. Now, normally I'd prefer just to get 2 little tubes, right? But sometimes the white is sold out in the 2-ounce size, and so then I end up having to get the big tube. The reason I do that is I use twice as much white as any other color. Titanium white is a fantastic color. It's a very stable color. If you're looking to decide when you want to upgrade from maybe economy paints to a pro paint, what's the first color you should upgrade? I would say the white is the first color you should upgrade. So those are all the colors that I use when I'm teaching my classes. Next, I'm going to tell you all the weird tools I use. So I have a lot of weird tools, things that you wouldn't just know as a beginner that you would want in your studio. And so I'm going to go through those and explain to you why I have them. The first one is a T-square ruler. I use this all the time in my classes, and this allows me to get straight horizon lines, make sure my water isn't spilling off the edge of my canvas when I need to make door frames, when I just need to be straight line, because I can be straight line challenged. And so you can see this is painted on. It's very well loved. I use it almost every class, and I tend to use it with these two. This is my chalk pencil. This is just white chalk and a pencil. And then this is chalk in this Taylor's chalk tool. So this is a Taylor's chalk tool that has chalk I can replace with different colors. I like the one that's the Dritz one. I'm actually brand specific on that. And this specific brand is a Stabilo white chalk. And I really like these. I like being able to change the colors out on the Taylor's chalk. I don't have that necessarily in my store. You can get that one at Joann's, but everything else so far, you can get it in my store. Now, the next important tool that I have is my low tack tape or painter's tape. I specifically have the Stick brand in blue is what you'll see me use. And this helps me like mask off edges. You have to do that all the time for setting a horizon line or shredding your water line. This is something you've really got to have some type of low tack tape in your paint bucket. Then this is really important, and I think that everybody needs it. This is a water bottle. It's just water in a bottle. It's a mister. It's like not big particulates, it's small mist, and I keep water in it. I can mist my paint to keep it fresh. I can mist my canvas. It's just really necessary, and you should have one of these around all the time, just a water bottle. Then there's the satin glazing liquid. That's the slow drying extender for acrylic colors by Golden. This is really important. I use this almost every class. It's because it slows down the drying time of acrylic so that your working time or open time lasts long enough for you to do a blend or do a technique. And it also allows you to glaze, right, which is a thin transparent color. There are products called glazing liquids, but they only allow you to glaze. They're not blending. In fact, they dry super fast, and they're terrible for blending. This is good for blending. So I really like it because it's good for blending, and it extends the colors, and I use this constantly. And the reason I have satin, it comes in gloss too. But the reason that I have satin is because our camera can't see past the gloss. It's so shiny. So I have to do the satin so the camera can see, but it's not important whether you do satin or gloss. It's just know the gloss is really glossy, so it's super shiny. Then the next tool that's weird that you wouldn't necessarily think that you should have in there, but you got to have is, I've got this little toothbrush here and I use this for splatter. This is a splattering tool and it's nice to have one that is dedicated to your studio that's not going to go back into your bathroom for any reason. The next important tool I use are artist knives. I tend to have a couple of these in. I like the diamond heads the best. I really like this brand, which is RGM from Italy. I do have these in my store. I think that, but you can get palette knives in plastic. I do think having at least one somewhere between this size and this size, I'm going to let you see it with my hand. Here's the thing to know. They don't really actually have sizes on the little knives themselves. So it's like small, medium, large kind of a thing. So in the small and medium range is what you're looking for. And then last but not least, by any means, is, well, actually, this won't be last because I have to mention my wet palette too, but is the Cerro paper. So I use Cerro paper. What I use it for is the traceables, right? So when we're doing traceables, there's the low tack tape, there's the printout from the thing. On the back side of this is my Cerro paper, and that allows me to transfer images from my drawings to my canvas. So this is the product. It's Cerro transfer paper. It's wax free. It's made for painting. It comes in white and red and yellow and blue. I have all the colors. I use white the most commonly. That's the one I use the most. And then you should just know that red and blue, it's a little more challenging to like take it off because it's very pigmented, but it's totally removable. Then the last thing I use, and we'll just put that on the screen here, is my wet palette, my Stay Wet palette. I always have a Stay Wet palette. That's what my paint is on, and it keeps my paint wet through the entire painting session. I'm painting for 3 hours. The Stay Wet palette's going to keep it moist and not drying out, and it comes with a lid so that I can store my paint. So those are all the weird tools that you wouldn't necessarily think of that I definitely use, that you'll see in almost all of my classes. When I come back, I'm going to tell you about the all-important brushes. So the first thing you'll see me use all the time in my classes are brushes that are called brights. Those are brushes that are squared here at the edges. These are actual brushes from my bucket. The number 30 Simply Simmons short handle I really use to paint backgrounds or large areas really fast. So it's kind of a workhorse for me. I use the number 10 bright from the Simply Simmons line very often. In fact, I call this the Goldilocks brush. And this does a lot of work. It has great lines. It fills in. You can work the corners. You can work the edges. It's a crisp brush. I've got another example of one I sometimes pull out. This is a number 8 Raphael Precision. It's in a tiny bright. I recommend, this is the number 10 in the Simply Simmons. Like this here is the number 8. It's just good to have a small, medium, and a large in these brushes. You want a small, medium, and large bright. So the next thing that I always paint with, you'll see every single show practically, are these two brushes. The first one is the number 6 Raphael Sepia. This is in my store as part of a 2-pack as part of the Raphael Essentials kit. This is the number 6 round. This is just tree branches, detail painting, getting into like I couldn't paint my eyeballs and all my gorgeous eyes that everyone's like, oh, I love your eyes. I could not do that without these two brushes. This other one is a number 1 Raphael Precision. So this is a small detail brush, and this is a small long handled round, but you can see they're very different size. So this is kind of like for micro stuff, and this is just for having control and detail. So those are the rounds that I use in practically every single show. So I always keep a grip of what's called a D brush in my brush bucket. If you've never heard of that, it's a brush that looks like a filbert on one side, but when you see it at the back, it's got a kind of curved and graded slope to the filament. So I like to get them in an 8, a 4, and a 0 in the sizes, and I have the brands Textura and Dartini. Now, here's the thing about that. The Texturas are synthetics and the Dartinis are hog bristle. And I generally have both. These are a little better for dry brushing and foliage techniques, and these are really great for blending and doing crisp edges. So I like to have both 8, 4, and 0. Another thing I have in my brush bucket always is a brush called a filbert. So the D brushes, I told you, have like an edge like a filbert. That's what I mean here, but the filbert is the same on both sides. This particular one is a number 4 Isacryl. Isabey Isocryl brush. So it's the number 4 Isabey Isocryl. You could do a 6 or an 8. The other brush size I like in this is an 8. So, no, it's a 6. So it's a 6 and a 4 in that particular brush line. But it's just a couple sizes of filbert I think are really nice to have in there. And those are specifically my filberts. If you paint with me a minute, you're going to see me use a bright in the hog bristle D'Artagnan line. So I have a number 20 and a number 18. They're just slightly different sizes. I wouldn't think you need both. I like having both, but you could probably get by with just one. If you were only going to do one, I'd do maybe the 20 because it gives you more brush. But I like both of these, and they're good for like doing soft blending and dry brushing, painting in clouds, and lots of different painting techniques. So you see me use them pretty frequently through my painting classes. So these are the hog bristle rounds that I have. Now this is the number 20. I use this one a lot to do clouds. This is one that I do a lot. This is also in the D'Artagnan line by Raphael. And then I have a number 8 and a number 4. And these are part of my cloud tools. They're just really good for doing soft backgrounds. I get into them quite a lot. The number 20 the most. But I also keep the number 8 and the number 4 around to get into details and doing that kind of work. But the 20, you'll see me use a lot. I also keep a couple fans in my brush bucket. This is the D'Artagnan by Raphael again. I have a 4 and a 2 on these little fans. I like them because they're short length out and they have hog bristles, so they do a really good fan technique. Fans, as you know, are great for doing trees and grass and all those things, but they're also good for clouds and oceans and fur and hair. So they're really a useful tool, actually. I also keep in my brush bucket a 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 1/4 inch angle brush. This is the Princeton Catalyst angle brush, and I will go through these often in paintings. They're really nice. I like angle brushes because they have such a good sharp edge. They're just good for painting in big areas and then getting into details. You can use this little corner of the brush for small effects. It's like I like brushes that are multi-sided, and these are very good multi-sided, and I do like the Catalyst. Again, if you're looking for these, I have these in my store. This is just really good brush to be having in your brush bucket, and I have several of these, and I get them out regularly in my classes. And then lastly, there's the weird specialty brushes that I actually use quite a lot. The first one that I use quite a lot is the 1-inch oval mop. This is the Princeton Select one. Now, again, I have these in my store, but if you're out just shopping for them, you don't want the white one, you don't want the black one, you want the one that is a light brown and a dark brown here at the edge. So it goes light brown to darker brown. That's the synthetic filament. The white one is a natural hair and the black one is a natural hair, and they will hold too much water. But I love this brush. I get it out constantly. It is my blend superhero. If you're trying to do blending, having at least 2 of these so you can do one wet and one dry is like, I would highly recommend having in your brush bucket as you go. Like, you don't have to collect everything like initially this day upon seeing this video, but it's just good to know, like, these are things to like think about putting in your brush bucket. Then the next 2 I have are also in the Princeton Select line. One is the number 12 round blender. This is epic for clouds. This is epic for blending. This is epic for getting in and doing water effects. I really love the number 12 round blender. Highly recommend it. And then, of course, the 3/8 Deerfoot Stippler. I have a whole video on Deerfoot Stipplers. It's called that because it looks like a deer foot. This brush is really great for foliage. This brush is really great for hair. This brush is really great for grass. So I like to have these around. And then finally, and this one people ask me about all the time, this is the Hair Superstar. If you're doing fur or hair, any of that, it is the Filbert Grainer. I have the 3/8 inch Filbert Grainer by Princeton Velvet Touch. I really really love this one quite a lot. I'm checking that. Yeah. 3/8 inch by Princeton. It's the Filbert Grainer Velvet Touch. And the Velvet Touch just has a really cool feeling handle. This is like a filbert where all the edges have been just sort of trimmed out and pieced out. You can make your own with a pair of scissors and a filbert if you can't get these, but once you start cutting your brush with any kind of scissors, it voids the manufacturer's warranty. Then I have surfaces that I work on. Now, I really like stretch canvases. My favorite is the Art Alternatives Classic Cotton. I paint these in standard sizes, like I use the same sizes across many videos, like the 2,500 videos. I've only used a few sizes. The largest is 16 by 20, then 11 by 14, 9 by 12, 8 by 8, and 12 by 12. I don't really vary from those canvas sizes. And I use them all pretty interchangeably. I haven't done a 16 by 20 in a minute, but all my old videos have 16 by 20s. And as soon as I'm in a standing easel, you'll see me do a 16 by 20 again. 9 by 12 is a real common size, and 8 by 8 is a real common size. And what's nice about the 8 by 8s and the 12 by 12s is like you can size those paintings up and down when they're on the square really easily. The other thing that you'll see me pull out is the 1264 pad by Fabriano paper. So this is a multimedia pad. In other words, you can paint from watercolor to pencil to acrylic, any of your art media is in it. It's 120-pound paper, which is like a really good weight. That's like good enough to do watercolor on. That's why it's a true multimedia pad. And I like to do it for like practice work, like where I'm swatching things out or practicing a technique, or if I'm demoing something. It's good to have one of these around to do your own color swatches and your own color mixes. And I really like that the perforation actually lets the pages pull out 9 by 12. This paper is good enough where you could do paintings on this paper and not have any trouble, but I tend to use it as a workbook and a technique test book when I'm just trying to get to know something. I really like it, and I tend to have the 9 by 12 size because that fits very well with my 9 by 12 canvases. So that's pretty much everything that I use in my studio from class to class. I've done, in the 10 years that I've been teaching on YouTube, I've done over 2,000, I think it's 2,500 plus videos. And it goes up really fast because I do 3 new classes every week. And so these paint colors will help you with the older videos. If you're going back into that old catalog, they will make sure that you're ready for anything I'm doing in the upcoming year. It definitely will get you ready for Acrylic April, if you've heard me talk about that. And you have heard me mention that I have a store. I do have a store, and most of the stuff that you saw me show you here, I have for sale in my store. So if you're looking for that, it's easy to find, but it is a North American shipping store. So if you're outside of that kind of contiguous North American shipping route, you should also know that I pick brands. They're like, my paint brand is 250 years old. It is a internationally distributed paint in all of the lines. The brush maker is incredibly old and is internationally distributed. The canvas, that one is not necessarily internationally distributed, but it's widely available in different stores around the US. And then you can just find those same size canvases in like another brand, and that one should be fine. But most of the stuff you see me have here, you should be able to get no matter where you live in the world. As long as you have access to an art store. So they're pretty widely carried. I try to make sure that I work with stuff that everybody can get no matter where they're living. But if you're in North America, you could get it from me if you felt like it. And I hope this sort of answers that question that I get all the time, which is like, what paint do I need? What brushes do I need? What materials do I need? And I know many of you wanted a complete list. But keep in mind, you don't have to get everything today. You can get just my more used versions or my more commonly used stuff and then add to it as you go over time. But I hope this list helps you in painting with me and on these classes, knowing what your materials are. Now, to that end, I really appreciate your time today. I want you to be good to yourself. I want you guys to be good to each other. And I will see you at an easel real soon. Bye-bye.